Have you ever wondered how a single act of kindness could change the course of not just one life, but many? Imagine a struggling, bankrupt restaurant owner who, despite his own despair, opened his doors to a destitute beggar and his young daughter, offering them refuge when they had nowhere else to turn. What began as a simple gesture of compassion soon became the spark that ignited a series of extraordinary events, leading to an unexpected transformation that no one could have foreseen. This heartwarming story takes us on an emotional journey, from the depths of despair to the heights of hope, as a man named Luis, broken by life's hardships, finds himself in a situation that could make or break him. With his daughter Sofia by his side, they find solace in the kindness of Armando, the restaurant owner. But when the restaurant faces imminent closure, Luis must dig deep, using the skills he thought he had lost, to not only save the place that had given them refuge, but also to rebuild a future for himself and his daughter. From the joyous moments of discovery to the sorrow of impending loss, and finally, to the exhilarating triumph of their collective efforts, this story is a powerful reminder that hope, creativity, and love can overcome even the darkest of days. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. The owner of a struggling, bankrupt restaurant, filled with the heavy weight of despair, took a step of kindness that would forever change the lives of a destitute beggar and his young daughter. Despite the uncertainty looming over his own future, he allowed them to take refuge in his beloved eatery while it awaited a buyer. One day, without the courtesy of knocking, he walked into the restaurant and was left utterly speechless by what he found. Luis, a man whose life had been reduced to the harsh reality of the streets, sat on the cold, unforgiving pavement, his eyes fixed on the school where his daughter would soon emerge. He deliberately chose a secluded side street, far from the bustling main exit, to shield himself from the judging stares of the other parents. They clustered together, waiting for their children with ease, but Luis knew that if he dared join them, their eyes would pierce through him with disdain and scorn. They just don't understand, he thought bitterly, the ache of his struggles pulsing in his chest. If they only knew the battles I fight every day to reclaim our lives, maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't look at me with such contempt. Lost in his own thoughts, Luis began to sink into the depths of his despair. I must push harder, he mused, his heart heavy with the weight of his responsibilities. There has to be something I haven't tried yet, some way out of this nightmare. There must be. Just as the dark clouds of hopelessness threatened to engulf him entirely, a burst of light cut through the gloom. "Dad, I'm here," Sofia's sweet, lively voice rang out, pulling Luis back from the edge. She bounded towards him, her face a radiant beacon of joy. "You won't believe how much I've learned today." "The teacher said I'm really smart," she exclaimed, her words tumbling out in a breathless rush, each syllable brimming with excitement. Luis stood, the heaviness in his heart lifting as his daughter's joy filled him with warmth. "Tell me everything, sweetheart," he said, his voice tender, "but let's walk and talk, or we'll miss lunch," he added with a gentle smile, taking her backpack and guiding her down the familiar street. As they walked, Luis listened intently, soaking in every detail of Sofia's day. Her animated chatter was a soothing balm to his weary soul, and before they knew it, they had arrived at Armando Navarro's restaurant. This place, once a bustling hub of activity, had become a sanctuary for Luis and Sofia, a rare oasis in their otherwise barren world. Armando, a towering figure with a stern face etched by years of hard work, was the kind of man whose heart overflowed with compassion, even if his exterior rarely betrayed it. Despite the burdens he carried, his generosity was boundless, especially toward those who had nowhere else to turn. Today, like so many before, a small gathering of homeless souls huddled in the alley, waiting for the warmth of a hot meal. Luis and Sofia were now familiar faces among them, greeted with nods and quiet smiles as they approached the storage room door, where Armando stood ladling steaming food into large pots. "Ah, Luis, Sofia," just in time Armando called out, his voice gruff but warm. "I've just refilled the pots. Help yourselves." The aroma of the food was intoxicating, a reminder of the simple pleasures that life still offered. "Thank you, mister." Armando Luis replied, his voice thick with gratitude. "You can't imagine how much this means to us. Without your kindness, I don't know how I'd provide for my daughter." Armando waved away the thanks with a dismissive hand, though his eyes softened. "No need to thank me, Luis. This is what everyone should be doing, but too many prefer to look the other way." With their meal in hand, Luis and Sofia found a spot in the alley and sat down to eat, Sofia's cheerful chatter filling the air once more. As they were finishing their meal, Armando approached them, sitting down beside Luis. It wasn't unusual for him to join them for a chat, but today something was different. His usually firm expression was marred by a deep, weary sadness. Luis noticed immediately, his heart sinking with concern. "What's wrong, Armando? You seem troubled. Is everything okay with the restaurant? Or is it your daughter?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. Armando hesitated, the weight of his troubles pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and tinged with despair. "Luis, things have gone from bad to worse. The restaurant, it's barely holding on. The customers have dwindled to almost nothing, and the debts, they're piling up faster than I can manage. If something doesn't change soon, I'm afraid I'll have no choice but to close it down and sell the place." He confessed, his voice breaking under the strain of his anguish. The pain in his words was palpable, a reflection of the deep despair that gripped his soul. Luis stood in stunned silence, letting Armando's heavy words sink in. The restaurant was far more than just a place that offered meals. It had become a beacon of hope for Luis and his daughter, a reminder that kindness still flickered in a world that seemed determined to extinguish it. The thought of it closing its doors forever was unbearable. "There must be a way," Luis said, his voice thick with emotion. "We can't just let the restaurant go under like this, not after all the years it served this community." Armando, his shoulders slumped in defeat, shook his head slowly. "I've tried everything, Luis. Promotions, discounts, nothing seems to work. People just aren't spending money like they used to, not with the economy in shambles." Luis's heart ached for the man who had been so generous to him and Sofia in their darkest hours. "Mister Armando, you've given us so much when we had nothing. There has to be some way to repay your kindness. We'll find a way to help, I promise. Maybe we can come up with something new, something that'll draw people back to the restaurant," he said, his voice filled with determination, even though he had no idea where to start. The seriousness of the situation was not lost on him, but neither was his refusal to accept defeat. Armando smiled faintly, touched by Luis's resolve, though he knew the road ahead was bleak. "Your willingness to help, even with all you're going through, means more to me than you know. I just don't see how you could do anything. I only hope that you and Sofia can find a way through your own troubles," Armando said, his voice thick with the sorrow of a man who knew too well the pain of losing everything. His eyes, filled with a profound sadness, met Luis's, both men sharing an unspoken understanding of what it meant to be on the brink of losing it all. Moved by Armando's words, Luis felt a surge of empathy. "I haven't really talked much about what happened to me, have I? I was in advertising, a career I loved. It was all about creativity, strategy, making ideas come to life. I was good at it too. But the company couldn't survive the economic downturn, clients started cutting budgets, and eventually, we had to shut down. I was one of the last to be laid off, still hoping things might turn around," Luis recounted, his voice tinged with the lingering pain of that loss. The memory of his last day at the office was still vivid, colleagues in shock, the weight of disbelief and sorrow hanging heavy in the air. The weeks that followed were a nightmare. He searched tirelessly for work, but nothing materialized. The rent fell behind, savings dwindled, and then came the final blow. They were evicted, left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. That day when we lost our home, it was like the world collapsed around me. No job, no roof over our heads, and the constant fear of how to protect my daughter. It was overwhelming, Luis confessed, his voice breaking as he relived the helplessness of that moment. His gaze drifted into the distance, the anguish of those dark days still raw. Armando listened in silence, every word striking a chord deep within him. Luis's story was a harsh reminder of how life could turn on a dime, leaving devastation in its wake. Luis, I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. Your resilience, your determination to keep going despite everything, it's nothing short of inspiring. I truly hope things get better for you and Sofia, and maybe for me too. It's going to take a lot of courage to get through this. But I believe we can, Armando said earnestly, his admiration for Luis clear in his tone. Luis smiled, grateful for the words of encouragement. Thank you, Armando. Your help has already made a world of difference for us. And even if I can't do much, know that I'll do whatever I can to help you too. After their conversation, Luis and Sofia made their way back to their makeshift shelter. The journey to the corner they called home was filled with a somber silence, each step heavier than the last. Their refuge was a small tent pitched under the cover of a dilapidated, abandoned house, a space that, despite its bleakness, at least offered protection from the elements. The house's gate, always ajar, beckoned invitingly, but Luis respected the invisible boundaries of the unknown owner and never dared to venture inside, contenting himself with the small, covered patio. The rest of the day passed without another meal. As night fell, Luis and Sofia huddled inside their tent. The only sounds breaking the silence were their soft, even breaths and the occasional distant noise from the city. Luis lay awake, staring at the worn fabric of the tent above him, his mind racing. I have to find a way out of this. Sooner or later, the answer will come, I'm sure of it, he thought, his brain working tirelessly to find a solution. Beside him, Sofia slept peacefully, her soft breathing a gentle reminder of why he couldn't give up. She's all I have, and I'm all she has. I can't let her down, Luis resolved, the weight of that responsibility pressing heavily on his chest as he drifted off to sleep. But the quiet of the night was suddenly shattered by a harsh, authoritative voice that jolted them awake. You two, get out of there now. Get out, or I'll tear this tent down myself. Do you hear me? The voice was sharp, filled with a no-nonsense authority that sent a jolt of fear through both father and daughter. Sofia, still groggy from sleep, looked at her father with wide, frightened eyes. Dad, what's happening? Why are they yelling at us? She whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Luis, forcing himself to remain calm despite the terror gripping his heart, whispered back, Stay here, Sofia. I'll find out what's going on. Don't leave the tent. Okay, he tried to infuse his voice with reassurance, though he felt none himself. Stepping outside, Luis found himself face to face with a burly policeman, his patrol car parked nearby, its red and blue lights slicing through the darkness. The officer's expression was stern, his tone leaving no room for argument. You're trespassing on private property. And it looks like you forced your way in, judging by the state of that gate, he accused, his voice hard and unyielding. Panic surged through Luis as he quickly tried to explain. Officer, we didn't break in. The gate's always been open, and the house is abandoned. We were just trying to find some shelter, Luis pleaded, desperation seeping into his voice. But the officer was unmoved. It doesn't matter. You can't stay here, abandoned or not. This is someone's property. If you don't leave now, I'll have no choice but to arrest you and take the girl into custody, he warned, his words cold and final. The threat of being separated from Sofia was too much to bear, and Luis knew he had no choice. The thought of his daughter alone, without him, filled him with a terror so intense it nearly overwhelmed him. He bent down to look inside the tent, his voice steady despite the fear churning inside him. "Sophia, we have to go now. Grab your backpack and let's find somewhere else to rest." "Okay," he said, forcing a calmness into his voice that he didn't feel. Hand in hand, Luis and Sophia left their shelter, passing the patrol car as they walked away. Luis could feel the policeman's gaze burning into his back, but he resisted the urge to break into a run. They walked under the cover of night, the darkness a veil that hid their tears and fears. Luis fought back the tears that threatened to spill, the weight of their situation pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. Sophia, sensing her father's distress, tightened her grip on his hand. She looked up at him, her young face etched with a resilience that never ceased to amaze him. "Everything will be okay, Dad. At least those bad men didn't hurt you. So everything will be all right," she said with a childlike conviction that made Luis's heart ache. He wanted so badly to believe her words, to find the strength she seemed to possess, but the uncertainty of what lay ahead loomed like a dark shadow over his heart. "I have to stay strong for her, no matter what," Luis thought, swallowing the lump in his throat as they walked further into the night, leaving behind the only refuge they had known. Eventually, they came across a quiet square, a small haven where they could rest for a while. Sophia was visibly exhausted, her small body struggling to keep up as sleep threatened to overtake her. Luis found a secluded bench and gently settled Sophia on his lap, offering what little comfort he could in such an uncertain situation. As she drifted off to sleep again, Sophia murmured softly, "Dad, I'm hungry. But there's nothing to eat until tomorrow. I don't really like the school food." She admitted, her simple, honest words cutting through Luis like a knife. The helplessness of being unable to provide for his daughter was a pain unlike any other. "How can I protect you from the world when I can't even give you something to eat?" he thought, the weight of his failure as a father crushing him. Fighting back tears, he stroked Sophia's hair gently, trying to comfort her. "I know, sweetheart, I know, but tomorrow at school, you'll have something to eat during recess. Just a little more patience, okay? The sun will rise soon," he whispered, his voice trembling with the effort to hold himself together. Sophia, her eyes heavy with sleep and hunger, looked up at him with a faint smile. "Okay, Dad, I love you so much, you know. I'll try to get some cookies for you tomorrow," she said, her voice fading as she finally succumbed to sleep. Left alone with his thoughts, Luis allowed the tears to fall silently as Sophia slept peacefully on his lap. Each tear carried the weight of his guilt, his sense of failure, his deep love for his daughter, and the crushing reality of their situation. "God, how long do I have to make her live like this?" he thought, his heart heavy with the pain of knowing he couldn't provide a better life for her. He looked up at the night sky, searching the stars for some sign of hope, some indication that things could change. "Please give me the strength to change our fate," he prayed silently, his desperate plea carried into the vastness of the universe. "I'll do anything, accept anything, just give us a chance," he whispered, his voice barely audible as he clung to the hope that somehow, someday things would get better. For now, all he had was the love for his daughter and the determination to keep fighting for her future, no matter how bleak it seemed. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Luis awoke with the same resolve he had clung to the day before. The routine, though bleak, offered him a semblance of stability in a life otherwise filled with uncertainty. Hand in hand with Sophia, they made their way to the school, each step a small victory in a world that often felt overwhelmingly heavy. This daily ritual, however modest, grounded Luis, giving him a purpose and a reason to keep moving forward, despite the weight of their struggles. Yet the morning dragged on, each ticking minute laden with the anxiety of what lay ahead. The looming question of their future gnawed at him, a persistent shadow that he could not escape. When the school day ended, Luis found himself in the same familiar spot, waiting for Sophia as he always did. On the outside, he appeared calm, a pillar of strength for his daughter, but inside his heart was a storm of worry. Together, they walked the now familiar path to Armando's restaurant, a place that had become their lifeline. But as they rounded the corner, a sight stopped Luis in his tracks. Nailed to the front of the restaurant was a glaring for sale sign. The words hit him like a punch to the gut, a stark reminder of the fragility of their situation. His heart plummeted, the hope that had been holding him together crumbling under the weight of this new reality. This can't be happening, Luis thought, his mind racing to make sense of it. Armando can't give up now. This restaurant is the only reason Sofia eats more than once a day. I can't let this happen. Determined to find answers, Luis approached Armando with a mix of concern and urgency. Armando, what's going on? I saw the sign. I can't believe you're giving up on the restaurant. I know you better than that. You've never been one to surrender so easily, he said, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and desperation. Armando's expression was a mirror of his inner turmoil, the lines of his face etched with resignation and sorrow. Luis, he began, his voice heavy with regret, I had no other option. The financial strain has become too much to bear. Selling the restaurant is the only choice I have left. I'm deeply sorry for you and Sofia, and for everyone else who relies on this place. But my hands are tied. I promise you'll still have food for this week. I need to leave town for a while, and my daughter will be here to take care of everything, including you too. The news hit Luis like a tidal wave, his mind spinning with a whirlwind of emotions. The thought of losing the restaurant, the one place that had been their refuge, filled him with a profound sense of dread. The fear of not being able to provide for Sofia, the uncertainty of what would happen to Armando and his business, it all seemed to be spiraling out of control, pushing Luis to the brink of despair. What if there's nowhere else to get food? What if things get even worse? His thoughts raced, each one more terrifying than the last, until a small flicker of inspiration sparked in the darkness. His past in advertising, a career that had once been his pride, suddenly surfaced as the key to their salvation. I can use what I know, Luis realized, hope beginning to replace the fear. There's something I can do to help. With renewed determination, Luis turned to Armando, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Armando, listen to me. I have an idea, a way to save the restaurant. Give me this week. Let me use my advertising skills to draw in more customers. In return, Sofia and I will sleep in the storeroom. It's a safe place for us, and it'll give me the time I need to make this work. He proposed, his words laced with both hope and desperation. Armando, taken aback by the unexpected offer, studied Luis closely. The restaurant was teetering on the edge, and selling seemed like the only viable option. But here was Luis, a man who had lost almost everything, offering a glimmer of hope where there had been none. After a moment of contemplation, Armando nodded, the decision made. All right, Luis, I'll give you the week. If you can bring in more customers, if you can show me that there's still hope for this place, I'll reconsider the sale, he agreed, his voice cautious but tinged with a newfound sense of optimism. With their agreement sealed, Luis felt a surge of hope for the first time in what seemed like forever. The weight of his worries lifted, if only slightly, replaced by a fierce determination to succeed. He knew the task ahead was daunting, but for Sofia's sake, for the sake of the man who had shown him so much kindness, he was ready to give it everything he had. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Luis felt like he had the power to change it. Upon hearing Armando's response, a flood of mixed emotions surged through Luis, relief intertwined with a deep sense of terror. The weight of the responsibility to save the restaurant now rested squarely on his shoulders, and with it, the precious opportunity to offer Sofia a safe place to sleep. It was an immense burden, but one he was willing to carry. Thank you, Armando. I promise I'll do everything I can to make this work. You won't be disappointed, I swear, Luis said, his voice tinged with both gratitude and determination. The rest of the day passed with a sense of calm that had been absent for far too long. Knowing that they finally had a place to rest brought a peace of mind that Luis hadn't felt in ages. As dusk began to settle, Luis and Sofia made their way back to the restaurant. When they arrived, they found the storeroom door slightly ajar. Cautiously, Luis peeked inside, and to his surprise, he saw a young woman carefully arranging a mattress between the stacks of boxes. The gesture was simple, yet it spoke volumes about the care and thoughtfulness that had gone into preparing this improvised space for them. "Good evening," Luis greeted, his voice resonating slightly in the quiet room. "I hope we're not intruding. You must be Armando's daughter, right?" The woman looked up, momentarily surprised, but her expression quickly softened into a warm, welcoming smile. "You must be Luis," she said, stepping forward with kindness in her eyes. "I'm Victoria, Armando's daughter. And this must be Sofia, right? What a beautiful girl." She added, her voice filled with genuine warmth as she knelt down to greet Sofia, who had been watching the scene with wide-eyed curiosity. Victoria invited them in with a gentle wave of her hand. "Please come in. Make yourselves comfortable, feel at home. I made some hot soup to welcome you. I figured you might be hungry. Just give me a moment, I'll go get it." With a quick, graceful movement, she disappeared, only to return moments later, carrying 3 steaming bowls of soup. Before they knew it, the 3 of them were seated on the makeshift seats formed by the boxes in the storeroom, savoring the comforting warmth of the meal. The rich aroma of the soup filled the air, mingling with the sense of comfort that had begun to settle around them. As they ate, Luis couldn't help but ask about Armando. "And your father? He mentioned he was going to travel. Has he already left? I thought I might see him again before he went." Victoria nodded, confirming that her father had indeed left earlier that day. "Yes, he had to leave this afternoon, but he left me with clear instructions. He trusts me to take care of things while he's away, and that gives me the confidence I need to handle everything," she said, her voice steady, though it was clear she was taking her responsibilities seriously. Luis smiled, admiring the blend of strength and kindness in Victoria's demeanor. "You have the same intelligence and kindness as your father. I'm sure you'll do wonderfully," he said, and was met with a shy, appreciative smile in return. "By the way, this soup is fantastic. You must have inherited your father's talent in the kitchen. Do you enjoy cooking?" he asked, genuinely curious. Victoria's eyes lit up with passion as she nodded, her smile growing. "Yes, I do enjoy cooking. It's a way for me to express myself, to connect with people through something as simple as a meal. But it's not my ultimate dream," she admitted, her voice softening as she spoke of her true passion. "I've always dreamed of living through music. Cooking speaks to the soul, but music speaks directly to the heart." Luis listened intently, deeply impressed by the fire in Victoria's words. It was clear that music was more than just a hobby for her. It was her calling, the thing that made her feel most alive. "That's a beautiful dream, Victoria," he said, his voice full of sincerity. "And with the same dedication you show in your cooking, I have no doubt you'll touch people's hearts with your music too." Victoria blushed slightly at the compliment, her eyes shining with a mix of humility and hope. "Thank you, Luis. That means a lot coming from you," she replied, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. As they finished their meal, the atmosphere in the storeroom was one of quiet contentment. For the first time in a long while, Luis felt like things might just work out. The warmth of the soup, the kindness of Armando and Victoria, and the simple comfort of having a safe place to sleep all combined to create a sense of hope that had been missing from his life for far too long. With Sofia by his side and a renewed sense of purpose in his heart, Luis was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that he wasn't alone. "Music does have that power, doesn't it?" Luis replied, his voice tinged with a touch of nostalgia. "It connects us to something bigger, something that transcends words. I've always loved music too, you know. I used to play instruments, did you know that? I can play the piano, the guitar, and even a bit of violin." As he spoke, a wistful smile played on his lips, recalling a time when music had been a significant part of his life. Sophia, though typically quiet, listened intently to the conversation, her wide eyes flicking between Louise and Victoria with innocent curiosity. She observed the way they exchanged smiles, the warmth between them unmistakable. It was a rare sight for her seeing her father so engaged, so genuinely happy, with a lightness in his expression that she barely recognized. The happiness radiating from him was a welcome change from the constant worry that had weighed him down for so long. As the conversation flowed naturally between Louise and Victoria, Sophia waited patiently for the right moment to speak. Finally, seizing a lull in the discussion, she spoke up with the sweetness and sincerity that only a child possesses. "Dad, Victoria would make a great mom, don't you think?" Louise was caught completely off guard by Sophia's innocent declaration, and he felt his face flush a deep shade of red. Embarrassment washed over him as he stumbled to find the right words, a nervous laugh escaping him. "Sophia, my goodness. Victoria, I'm so sorry, she's just a child." "You know how kids are," right? He stammered, clearly flustered and unsure of how to handle the situation. Victoria, although blushing herself, responded with a genuine laugh, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Don't worry, Louise. It's absolutely adorable," she reassured him, her voice full of affection and understanding. "I completely understand. With everything you two have been through, it's natural for her to miss having a mother figure around her. Words, spoken with such warmth, eased the tension and turned what could have been an awkward moment into something endearing. The brief moment of discomfort didn't dampen the spirit of the evening. If anything, it added a layer of intimacy and humanity to their interaction. The conversation continued, weaving through topics both light and serious, until eventually it was time for Victoria to leave. She bid them good night, her presence lingering in the warmth of the storeroom even after she had gone. Left alone in the quiet darkness, Louise and Sophia settled onto the mattress that now served as their bed. The space felt calmer, the silence comfortable after the vibrant energy Victoria had brought with her. As they lay there, trying to find comfort on the makeshift bed, Louise's mind was still buzzing with the laughter and conversations of the night. Yet just as he was beginning to drift off to sleep, Sophia broke the silence with another observation. "Dad, I saw how you looked at Victoria. You like her, don't you? There's no point in lying to me, I could tell. You looked like a fool," she teased, her tone light and playful. Louise chuckled, caught off guard by her candidness. "Time to sleep, little one. Enough chatter for tonight. I'm tired," he said, though he couldn't help the smile that crept onto his face. Her words had warmed his heart in a way he hadn't expected. But Sophia wasn't done. She added with a giggle, "She liked you too, you know. I could tell she was acting silly around you too." Her innocent confidence made Louise pause, his thoughts swirling with the possibility. Could it really be true? Could Victoria have felt something for him? Or was it just the imaginative musings of a child? He tried to brush the thought aside, reasoning that it was probably just Sophia's youthful imagination running wild. But the idea lingered, warming him in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. As these thoughts filled his mind, Louise watched Sophia as she closed her eyes, a contented smile still playing on her lips as she drifted off to sleep. Left alone with his thoughts, he wondered, was there a kernel of truth in Sophia's innocent observations? Could Victoria have really felt something for him, despite the harsh reality of his circumstances? The notion seemed almost impossible, a distant fantasy. Yet, as he lay there, exhaustion finally pulling him into sleep, he couldn't help but hold onto that small glimmer of hope, a new warmth in his heart that he hadn't expected to find. The next morning, Victoria, with her usual vibrant energy, prepared breakfast for Louise and Sophia, a gesture that was far more than just a simple act of kindness. As they sat together enjoying the meal, which was simple yet infused with care, Victoria couldn't help but broach the subject that had been on her mind. "So, Louise," she began, her tone warm yet curious, "have you thought about what you're going to do to help the restaurant? My father mentioned you're quite skilled in advertising, and that you might have some ideas to turn things around. Her curiosity was genuine, underlined by a subtle thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, Louise could be the key to saving the restaurant. Louise, who had been chewing thoughtfully on a piece of bread, looked up and nodded. "I've been thinking about it," he replied, his voice measured as he considered his next words. "But I think I need to spend some time inside the restaurant, get a real feel for the place. Understanding the essence of what you're trying to promote is crucial for creating something that truly resonates with people." Sensing Luis's need for focus and the space to let his thoughts take shape, Victoria quickly offered her assistance. "How about I take Sophia to school today? That way you can have some uninterrupted time to really dive into your plans." She suggested, her offer more than just practical, it was a gesture of deep trust and support in Luis's efforts. Louise, deeply appreciative of her thoughtfulness, accepted the offer with a warm smile. "That would be fantastic, Victoria. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much it means to me, knowing that Sophia is in good hands. Your support, both yours and your father's, won't be in vain. I promise you," that he said, his gratitude evident in his voice. After Victoria and Sophia left, Louis took a deep breath and made his way into the restaurant, entering through the storeroom door that led directly into the kitchen. From there, he moved into the main dining area, where rows of empty tables sat, waiting for the customers who never came. The silence was almost oppressive, but to Louise it felt like a canvas blank and full of potential. As he walked through the space, his eyes caught sight of an easel with a chalkboard near the entrance, where the word "welcome" was written in fading chalk. It was then that an idea began to take root in his mind. When Victoria returned later that day, Louise was waiting for her, perched on the boxes in the storeroom, his energy buzzing with the excitement of his newfound idea. "Victoria, I've been thinking," he began, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. "What if we used that entrance sign, the chalkboard out front, to announce something unique, something that grabs people's attention and makes them want to step inside and see what's going on?" Victoria's eyes lit up with interest as she listened to Louis lay out his plan. "We could use it to announce special dishes, limited time promotions, or even themed events. The key would be to change it regularly, creating a sense of novelty and anticipation that keeps people coming back to see what's new." Louis explained, his advertising experience clearly informing his approach. Victoria nodded along, clearly intrigued, but a hint of hesitation lingered in her expression. "It's a great idea, Louis," she said, her tone thoughtful. "But we need to keep in mind the restaurant's current situation. We don't have a lot of resources to spare, so whatever we do has to be both effective and cost-efficient." Her voice, while hopeful, carried the weight of the financial constraints they were facing. Louis nodded, fully understanding the gravity of their situation. "You're right, Victoria. We can't afford to go all out, but that doesn't mean we can't be creative. Sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful," he said, closing his eyes for a moment as he let his mind sift through the possibilities. After a few moments of silent contemplation, Louis opened his eyes with renewed determination. "How about this?" he proposed, his voice steady. "We could start by offering a daily special, something simple but delicious, made with ingredients you already have on hand. We can play with themes, like family favorites or taste of home. The key would be in how we present it. The chalkboard could be our canvas, announce the special with a catchy, inviting phrase. Maybe something like 'come in for a taste of comfort' or 'today's special.' A dish that warms the soul. We keep the costs low by using what's available, but we draw people in with the promise of something unique and heartfelt." Victoria's face softened into a smile, her earlier reservations easing as she considered Louis's suggestion. "I like it," she said, the optimism in her voice growing. "It's simple, but it has heart, and that's what this place needs right now. Something that speaks to people, something that makes them feel at home." Louise smiled back, feeling a surge of hope. Exactly. We'll start small, build momentum, and as people start coming in, we can think about expanding the ideas. The important thing is to create a buzz, to make this place feel alive again," he said, his confidence in the plan solidifying with each word. Victoria nodded, her own confidence bolstered by Louise's conviction. "Let's do it," she agreed, the two of them sharing a moment of mutual determination. Together, they were ready to breathe new life into the restaurant, one chalkboard message at a time. As if struck by a sudden flash of inspiration, Louise's eyes lit up, and a brilliant idea began to take shape in his mind. The excitement was almost palpable as he leaned forward, unable to contain the enthusiasm that was building within him. What if we introduced a unique element of fun into the dining experience? Imagine this, he began, his voice filled with growing anticipation. A customer could order a mystery dish up, something selected at random from the menu. But here's the twist: before they get to enjoy the meal, they have to guess what it is just by its appearance and aroma. If they guess the name of the dish correctly, they get to enjoy it for free, along with a complimentary drink on the house. Victoria's initial caution quickly melted away, replaced by an infectious enthusiasm that mirrored Louise's. The simplicity and creativity of his idea captivated her almost immediately. It was as though a light bulb had gone off in her own mind, illuminating the brilliance of this fresh approach. "Louise, that's absolutely brilliant," she exclaimed, her eyes widening with admiration as the possibilities began to unfold in her thoughts. "It's not just a meal anymore, it's an engaging experience that makes dining here exciting and memorable. People love a good challenge, especially one that offers the thrill of potentially winning something. And the best part, it doesn't require a huge investment, just a bit of creativity and some clever marketing. This could be exactly what we need to draw people in and create some buzz around the restaurant." Caught up in the wave of excitement, Victoria felt a sudden impulse that she couldn't resist. Before she knew it, she had moved forward and wrapped her arms around Louise in a spontaneous, heartfelt hug. The gesture was so unexpected that it took Louise by surprise, and he felt a warm flush spread across his cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and joy flooding his senses. His heart raced with the sudden closeness, but he managed to gently return the hug, savoring the brief moment of connection. When they finally pulled back, both of them were left with shy, slightly awkward smiles, the atmosphere between them subtly changed, charged with an unspoken warmth and mutual respect. Realizing that the conversation had momentarily drifted from its course, Louise cleared his throat, attempting to refocus on the task at hand, though the warmth of the moment lingered in his thoughts. "So," he began, his voice still carrying a trace of the previous excitement, "let's start planning this out. We need to think about how to spread the word and really get people curious. Maybe we can even brainstorm a few more games or events that will keep customers coming back. If we offer something different each day, it'll give people a reason to return regularly and see what new surprises we have in store." Victoria nodded, her mind already buzzing with ideas, her earlier concerns now replaced with renewed energy and optimism. "Absolutely," she agreed, her tone enthusiastic. "And I've been thinking too, we can keep everything within our budget by being smart about how we implement these ideas. We don't need to go overboard. Sometimes a small, well-executed idea can have a huge impact. We just need to focus on making each experience unique and engaging for the customers." As they continued to exchange thoughts and refine their ideas, the sense of hope that had once been faint and fragile now filled the room with a palpable energy. The atmosphere in the restaurant, which had been so heavy with uncertainty, was now alive with possibility. The two of them felt a shared sense of purpose, a belief that they were on the brink of something truly transformative for Armando's restaurant. With the plan starting to take shape, Victoria eagerly took the lead in bringing the first part of their idea to life. She picked up the chalkboard and, with careful attention to detail, wrote out a message that they hoped would catch the eye of anyone passing by. Order a random dish and guess its name. If you guess correctly, you don't pay. She chose her words carefully, making sure they were clear, inviting, and intriguing, knowing that this simple message would be their first step in drawing curious diners into the restaurant. As she placed the sign outside on the street, there was a tangible mix of emotions, nervous anticipation intertwined with a budding hope that this could be the breakthrough they desperately needed. It felt like a leap of faith, a gamble on the curiosity and adventurous spirit of potential customers, and a belief in the power of creativity to revitalize the struggling business. With the restaurant officially open for the day, Victoria busied herself in the kitchen, trying to keep her mind occupied with the routine tasks at hand. She cleaned the few dishes that were left, methodically washing and drying them, all the while trying to keep her thoughts from spiraling into anxiety. What if no one bites? What if people aren't interested in taking a risk? Just because an idea sounds good doesn't mean it'll work, she thought, her nerves starting to get the better of her. But despite the creeping doubts, she held on to the hope that they had done everything right, that this could be the start of something special. Then, the sound that broke through the silence and tension, a soft chime as the doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of a customer. Victoria's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly wiped her hands on her apron, trying to compose herself before heading out to greet the newcomer. As she stepped into the dining area, she found herself face to face with a man whose expression was a mix of curiosity and intrigue. "I saw the sign outside," he said, his tone filled with interest and a touch of playful challenge. "How does it work? Is it really free if I guess the dish correctly?" Victoria's heart swelled with excitement as she explained the game to him, her earlier anxiety melting away. "Yes, absolutely," she said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. "You order a random dish from our menu, and I'll prepare it for you. Before you taste it, you try to guess what it is based on its appearance and smell. If you guess correctly, both the dish and your drink are on the house." She couldn't help but smile, the hope that this simple interaction could be the beginning of a turnaround for the restaurant shining through in her eyes. The man nodded, clearly intrigued by the idea. "All right," he said with a grin, "let's see what you've got." As Victoria headed back to the kitchen to prepare the mystery dish, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. This wasn't just about saving the restaurant anymore, it was about creating an experience that would bring joy and surprise to the customers, something they would talk about and remember. And as she worked, the hope that this could be the start of something bigger, something transformative, kept her spirits high. The restaurant's future, which had once seemed so bleak, now held a glimmer of promise, all thanks to a simple idea born out of desperation and creativity. The customer seemed intrigued and entertained by the unique challenge presented to him. With a slight grin, he said, "That sounds pretty interesting. I accept the challenge, let's see what happens. I'll take a random dish, please." Victoria, barely able to contain her excitement and disbelief at their first customer's enthusiasm, nodded eagerly before rushing to the kitchen. Her heart raced as she prepared the day's first dish, her hands moving swiftly yet carefully, ensuring that the meal was not only delicious but also mysterious enough to make the guessing game fun. Meanwhile, in the storeroom, Luis was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, anxiety, anticipation, and hope all battled for dominance in his mind. He spent the morning alternately scribbling down new ideas and pacing the floor, his nerves getting the best of him. Every few minutes he found himself peeking through the kitchen door, hoping for any sign of Victoria or some indication of how things were going. The silence and lack of updates only served to heighten his anxiety, making him doubt whether the plan was as successful as he had hoped. What if no one else shows up? What if the idea was a total flop, he thought, the weight of these fears pressing down on him. But he quickly shook his head, refusing to give in to negativity. "No, I can't think like that. I have to stay positive. It's just a matter of time, and it'll work out." He reassured himself, trying to maintain hope that Victoria was simply too busy with a rush of customers to come and update him. As the morning stretched on, Luis kept glancing at the clock, knowing he would soon need to leave to pick up Sofia from school. Despite his anxiety, duty called, and he reluctantly left the restaurant, his mind still buzzing with thoughts of how the day was going. However, when he returned with Sofia in tow, his worry gave way to curiosity and then to surprise. As they approached the restaurant, Luis spotted Victoria outside, busy with her routine of serving food to the homeless in the alley, a gesture that had become a daily ritual. But today there was something different about her demeanor. As soon as she saw them, she broke into a wide, enthusiastic grin and hurried over to greet them, her excitement palpable. "You won't believe what happened," Victoria exclaimed, barely able to contain her joy. "The idea worked. We had more customers today than we've had in ages. You're really doing it. Luis, you're amazing." Her eyes sparkled with the thrill of success, her voice brimming with the kind of excitement that only comes from seeing a plan come to life. Luis, upon hearing the news, felt a wave of pure, unfiltered happiness wash over him. He couldn't suppress the laugh of relief and joy that bubbled up. "Really? That's incredible. You have no idea how much of a relief that is to hear," he said, his heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. The icing on the cake was when Victoria told him that only 4 customers had correctly guessed their dishes, meaning not only had the idea brought in more people, but it had also generated some profit. "But we can't get complacent," Luis added, the gears in his mind already turning toward the next steps. "We need to keep things fresh and exciting." While I was in the storeroom, I was thinking about the next move. What if we do something similar with juices? Customers could try to guess the flavor by taste. If they get it right, they could have unlimited refills. Victoria, still buzzing with the day's success, embraced the new idea with enthusiasm. "I love it. It's a great way to keep the momentum going. I notice that people are really drawn to these kinds of challenges, especially the younger crowd." She agreed, already envisioning how they could roll out the new promotion. The next day, they eagerly prepared to launch the new concept. Victoria carefully wrote out the new sign in her neat, attractive handwriting: "Order a random juice and guess the flavor. If you guess correctly, drink as much as you want." The sign was strategically placed where it would catch the eye of anyone passing by, and they waited with bated breath to see how the new idea would fare. The initial excitement was high, and the promotion did manage to attract a decent number of customers, each one intrigued by the prospect of the game. However, as the day wore on, Victoria noticed that the number of patrons wasn't as significant as the previous day's surge. While there was a steady stream of curious customers, the crowd thinned out as the hours passed, and the overall buzz wasn't as strong as they had hoped. As evening fell, Victoria found Luis in the storeroom, her earlier enthusiasm tempered by the day's outcome. Her expression was clouded with concern, the weight of the restaurant's future pressing heavily on her shoulders. "Luis, the juice idea was good, but it didn't bring in the numbers we needed," she admitted, her voice tinged with disappointment. "We need something more eye-catching, something that will really set us apart from the other restaurants in the area. We need to grab people's attention in a big way." She confessed, her words heavy with the urgency and desperation they both felt. Luis, sensing the depth of Victoria's concern, fell silent for a moment, lost in thought as he searched for a solution. He replayed their previous conversations in his mind, trying to piece together something that could reignite the momentum they had started to build. And then, like a spark in the darkness, he remembered something Victoria had mentioned, a fleeting comment about her love for music. "Victoria," he said slowly, as an idea began to form, "you mentioned that you love music. Do you play any instruments? Have you ever performed in front of an audience before?" Victoria, taken aback by the sudden shift in conversation, hesitated. She wasn't sure where Luis was going with this, and the uncertainty made her wary. "Yes, I do love music," she replied cautiously. I play the guitar a little, and I sing sometimes, but only for myself or my father. I've never performed in public before." Why do you ask? There was a note of apprehension in her voice, a mix of curiosity and fear of where this conversation might be heading. Luis, sensing her hesitation, softened his tone, trying to reassure her. "I was thinking." He began, choosing his words carefully, that we might be able to combine our ideas. What if, along with our mystery dishes and drinks, we added live music to the experience? You could perform here in the restaurant, nothing too big or formal, just something to create a warm, inviting atmosphere. People love live music, especially when it's genuine and from the heart. It could be exactly the kind of unique touch that sets us apart. Victoria's eyes widened as she listened to Luis's suggestion. The idea of performing in front of others was both thrilling and terrifying. She had always kept her music private, a personal passion shared only with her father. But the thought of combining her love for music with their efforts to save the restaurant intrigued her. Could this really work? Could her music be the key to drawing people in? Still, the fear lingered. "I don't know," Luis, she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never done anything like that before. What if I'm not good enough? What if it doesn't work?" Luis reached out, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Victoria, you've got talent, and I can tell how much music means to you. It's not about being perfect, it's about creating an experience that people will connect with. Your music could be the thing that makes this place special, that gives people a reason to come here, not just for the food, but for the atmosphere, for the feeling of being somewhere unique." Victoria looked into Luis's eyes, seeing the sincerity and belief he had in her. It was daunting, but the idea of sharing her music, of helping to save the restaurant in such a personal way, stirred something deep inside her. It was a risk, but one she realized she was willing to take. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steadying as she made her decision. "Let's do it. I'll perform, and we'll see where it goes. But you have to promise me something, Luis. If I start to panic, you'll be there to help me through it." Luis smiled, the warmth and encouragement in his eyes unmistakable. "I promise, Victoria. We're in this together." With that, a new plan began to take shape, one that combined their creativity, their passions, and their determination to save Armando's restaurant. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time it felt like they were not just surviving, but building something new, something that could truly make a difference. Luis, with a warm smile playing on his lips, let the silence linger, allowing the unspoken suggestion to hang in the air. His expression alone was enough to convey his thoughts, and Victoria quickly caught on, her eyes widening in realization. "You're not suggesting that I perform, are you?" "Luis, I don't know if I can. It's a good idea, I won't deny that. But what if I get too nervous and can't sing?" Her voice wavered, revealing the inner turmoil that the idea of performing in front of others stirred within her. The thought of standing up and singing, even in a familiar setting like the restaurant, seemed to ignite a mix of excitement and fear in her. Luis could see the conflict in her eyes, the way her enthusiasm was tempered by anxiety. He knew that performing publicly was a daunting prospect for Victoria, but he also believed that she had it in her to overcome those fears. He was determined to help her find the confidence she needed. "How about we take it one step at a time?" he suggested gently, his tone soothing and encouraging. "You don't have to jump straight into performing for the restaurant. Let's start small. What if you sing just for me and Sophia? Consider it a rehearsal, a chance to ease into it. If you can sing for us, I'm sure you'll find it easier to perform in front of others when the time comes." Victoria hesitated, the uncertainty still evident in her expression. The idea of singing, even for a small, supportive audience like Luis and Sophia, touched on her deepest insecurities. "But what if I go off key? I'm not that good, Luis. I'm just an amateur. I've never had any formal training, And I don't know all the technical aspects of singing, she admitted, her voice a mix of fear and a longing to share her passion with others. She felt vulnerable, exposing this part of herself that she usually kept hidden. Luis, however, wasn't about to let her give up so easily. He met her gaze with unwavering support. "Victoria, we believe in you. It's not about perfection, it's about sharing something you love. No matter what happens, we'll be here, cheering you on. This is a chance to showcase your talent, even if it's just for the two of us. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But we'd love to hear you sing." Just then, Sophia, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, chimed in with her usual boundless enthusiasm. "Please, Victoria, I really want to hear you sing. I bet you sound just like a princess from the movie," she said, her eyes wide with excitement and anticipation. The innocent sincerity in Sophia's voice, coupled with her bright, expectant gaze, was the final nudge Victoria needed. After a moment of inner deliberation, Victoria took a deep breath and nodded, though her nerves were still palpable. "All right," she agreed softly, "I'll give it a try. But I'm not promising anything, okay? I'll sing for you, but that doesn't mean I'll be ready to sing for the whole restaurant." That evening, the storeroom was transformed into an impromptu stage. The three of them gathered in the cozy, dimly lit space, with Luis seated on one of the boxes, guitar in hand, ready to accompany Victoria. The atmosphere was intimate and filled with anticipation. When Victoria finally began to sing, her voice's sweet, melodious sound filled the room, surprising even herself with its clarity and emotion. Her voice seemed to resonate with something deep within her, and the more she sang, the more she lost herself in the music. Luis, playing alongside her, was captivated. He had known Victoria had a passion for music, but hearing her sing was an entirely different experience. Her voice was like a gentle breeze, full of warmth and tenderness, and it touched something deep within him. As he strummed the guitar, Luis realized he was witnessing something special, something that went beyond just music. It was a moment of pure, unguarded emotion, and it stirred feelings in him that he hadn't expected. Watching Victoria sing, her eyes closed and her face lit with a subtle glow, he felt a warmth spread through his chest, a new and profound affection taking root. He was enchanted by her in a way he hadn't been before, and the realization left him both awed and humbled. For Victoria, the experience was equally transformative. As she sang, she became more aware of the emotions swirling within her, emotions she hadn't fully recognized until now. There was something about the way Luis played the guitar, his fingers moving skillfully across the strings, that felt almost magical. The melodies he created were not just accompaniments to her voice, but a connection between them, an unspoken language that resonated deep in her heart. And as she sang, she realized that her feelings went beyond her love for music. It wasn't just the act of singing that moved her, but Luis himself, his presence, his support, and the way he looked at her with such admiration and kindness. This newfound awareness brought with it a whirlwind of emotions, a mix of joy at the discovery and anxiety about what it meant. She hadn't expected to feel this way, hadn't anticipated that her affection for Luis would blossom so suddenly and intensely. The recognition of these feelings was both exhilarating and terrifying, and as the song came to an end, Victoria found herself grappling with the depth of her emotions. When the last note faded, there was a moment of silence, the air thick with the lingering impact of the music. Luis and Sophia both looked at Victoria with wide smiles, their applause breaking the quiet. "That was amazing," Victoria, Luis said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "You've got a real gift." Sophia jumped up, clapping her hands with delight. "I knew you'd sound like a princess. You're even better than I imagined." Victoria blushed, a shy smile tugging at her lips as she absorbed their praise. Despite her earlier fears, she felt a sense of accomplishment, a small victory in sharing her music with others. And beneath that, a flicker of something more, a deepening connection with Luis, that both thrilled and unsettled her. As they tidied up the storeroom, preparing to call it a night, Victoria couldn't shake the thoughts that swirled in her mind. The realization that her feelings for Louise were growing stronger left her feeling both hopeful and anxious. What did this mean for them? Could these emotions complicate their efforts to save the restaurant, or could it be the start of something wonderful? For now, she decided to let the feelings settle, trusting that whatever came next would reveal itself in time. The night had been a step forward, not just for the restaurant, but for her and Louise as well, a journey that was just beginning. After the last note was played and the final verse sung, Victoria was positively glowing. The experience of performing, which had initially filled her with dread, had transformed into something exhilarating and empowering. She felt a newfound confidence that radiated from within. "Thank you so much for this, really," she said, her voice full of gratitude and determination. "Now I know I'm capable of doing it, and I'll give it my all. Let's bring music to the restaurant." The following day, the restaurant reopened its doors with a renewed sense of purpose and energy. The air was electric, filled with anticipation, as the newly updated sign outside announced the latest attraction: live music tonight. Guess the song's name and win a free dessert. This enticing promise, so unusual for a neighborhood eatery, sparked the curiosity of many, drawing in a crowd eager for more than just a meal. They were seeking an experience. Inside, Louise had transformed a corner of the restaurant into a charming, makeshift stage. He had stacked fruit crates to create a cozy platform for Victoria to perform on, adding colorful fruits and soft lighting to set the mood. It was simple yet inviting, and the vibrancy of the fruits brought a rustic, warm feel to the space. Louis himself, dressed in the work clothes that Victoria had thoughtfully provided, seamlessly juggled the roles of server and chef. To everyone's delight, he proved to be a natural in the kitchen, his culinary skills on full display as he prepared and served dishes with a level of finesse that surprised even him. Meanwhile, little Sophia was not to be left out of the action. She assisted her father with a seriousness and dedication that charmed every customer who watched her. With a child's grace, she passed ingredients, collected plates and glasses, and moved around the kitchen with a confidence that belied her age. Her presence added a touch of heartwarming authenticity to the restaurant's bustling atmosphere. As the afternoon wore on, the restaurant became increasingly crowded. The allure of live music, coupled with the playful challenge of guessing song titles, had captivated the patrons. Victoria's sweet, captivating voice filled the room, enchanting everyone who listened. Each song was met with enthusiastic applause, and the customers eagerly participated in the guessing game, hoping to win the promised dessert. The atmosphere was one of joyous celebration, as the restaurant buzzed with the energy of a lively and engaged crowd. Throughout it all, Louise, though busy with the demands of a full house, never missed an opportunity to steal glances at Victoria. Whenever he passed by the stage, he allowed himself a brief moment to admire her, a smile inevitably spreading across his face. There was something magical about watching her perform, something that made his heart swell with admiration and affection. Those fleeting moments when their eyes met and smiles were exchanged were like secret treasures, only interrupted by the need to attend to the customers' calls. Yet even as he worked, that smile never left Louis's face, a constant reflection of the deep admiration and growing feelings he harbored for Victoria. Returning to the kitchen after one such moment, Louise was caught off guard by Sophia's perceptive comment. "Dad, you have that silly smile again." "I still haven't given up on having a mom," she teased, her voice laced with playful mischief. Her words hit him with a mix of surprise and amusement, causing him to quickly shift the conversation back to work. "Let's focus on the dishes now, okay? We have a lot to do, and we can't be chatting. And be careful with the glasses, use the chair to reach them," he instructed, trying to maintain a neutral tone, though his heart felt impossibly light. Despite his attempt to redirect the conversation, it was clear that something significant had changed for Louise that day. The restaurant wasn't the only thing that had been revitalized. His own heart had been touched in a profound and unexpected way. In the days that followed, the restaurant's success only continued to grow. Word spread quickly about the unique experience Armando's restaurant now offered, drawing in more customers each day. The combination of delicious food, live music, and the playful guessing game created a winning formula that people couldn't resist. The once struggling eatery was now a lively hub of activity, its tables filled with patrons eager to be part of the vibrant atmosphere that Victoria's music and Luis's charm had created. It was in this atmosphere of triumph and contagious joy that Armando returned from his trip. As he approached the restaurant, he was stunned by the sight before him. The entrance was packed with people, a scene he hadn't witnessed in a long time. The sound of his daughter Victoria's voice, sweet and melodic, carried through the air, blending with the cheerful chatter of the customers. The old for sale sign, once a stark reminder of the restaurant's bleak future, had disappeared without a trace. Stepping inside, Armando was met with even more surprises. The restaurant was buzzing with life, every table occupied, and the atmosphere was one of warmth and camaraderie. As he took it all in, his eyes landed on Luis, who was moving gracefully among the customers, taking orders, serving dishes, and chatting with patrons as though he had been doing it his whole life. Luis, dressed impeccably and with a smile that radiated genuine happiness, seemed at ease in his new role. When he spotted Armando, his face lit up with joy, and he immediately approached to greet him. "Welcome back," Armando, Luis exclaimed, his voice full of warmth. "How was your trip?" "I hope it wasn't too tiring." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of all the hard work and dedication that had gone into transforming the restaurant during Armando's absence. Armando, still in awe of what he was seeing, could hardly believe the change. "Luis, this is incredible. I don't even know what to say," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I never expected to come back to something like this. You've brought this place back to life." Luis smiled, modestly brushing off the praise. "It wasn't just me, Armando. Victoria's music, Sophia's help, and all the little changes we made, they all played a part. We just gave people a reason to come back, to enjoy themselves, and the restaurant did the rest." As Armando looked around, taking in the full scope of what had been accomplished, he felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride. His daughter's voice continued to fill the room, drawing smiles and applause from the diners. The restaurant, once on the brink of closure, was now thriving, filled with joy and laughter. It was more than he could have hoped for, and he knew that Luis had been instrumental in making it happen. "You've done something remarkable here," Luis, Armando said, his eyes reflecting the depth of his appreciation. "Thank you. Thank you for saving this place, and for giving us all something to be proud of." Luis, feeling the sincerity in Armando's words, nodded, his own heart full. "It's been my pleasure, Armando. But this is just the beginning. There's so much more we can do. With your experience, Victoria's talent, and all of us working together, I know we can make this place even better." As the two men stood there, surrounded by the sounds of a thriving restaurant and the music that had brought it back to life, they both knew that a new chapter had begun. It was a chapter filled with hope, success, and the promise of even greater things to come. And in the midst of it all, the bonds between them had grown stronger, laying the foundation for a future that was bright with possibilities. Armando, still overwhelmed by the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him, let out a laugh that was thick with joy and relief, and for the first time in what seemed like ages, tears of happiness welled up in his eyes. He allowed those tears to fall freely, a release of the pent-up emotions that had been brewing over the months of uncertainty and hardship. "You've done an incredible job, Luis. It's nothing short of a miracle. I owe you everything: my life, my daughter's happiness, this restaurant's revival," Armando said, his voice cracking slightly under the weight of his gratitude. But true to his nature, Armando quickly composed himself. returning to the no-nonsense man Luis had come to respect. Wiping his tears, he adopted a more serious tone. "But it seems we don't have much time for chatting and crying. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Come on, let's get back to it," he declared with renewed vigor, slipping seamlessly back into his role in the restaurant. The energy between him and Luis was different now, charged with a sense of partnership that flowed naturally, as if they had been a well-oiled team for years. This moment marked not just the recovery of the restaurant, but the birth of a new family, a bond forged not by blood but by shared dreams, collective effort, and above all, the power of music. The transformation of Armando's restaurant into a vibrant, joyful gathering place was living proof that even in the darkest times, hope and creativity can carve out unexpected paths, bringing light and color to the grayest of days. As the busy day finally drew to a close, the restaurant settled into a well-earned rest. The once bustling space was now quiet, filled with the soft hum of satisfaction that follows a day well spent. In this moment of calm, Armando approached Luis with a serious expression, gesturing for a private conversation in the storeroom. Meanwhile, Victoria and Sofia enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere in the kitchen, happily savoring the remnants of a delicious dessert. Once inside the storeroom, Armando didn't waste time getting to the point. His eyes, brimming with gratitude, fixed on Luis as he began to speak. "Luis, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. You can't imagine how much all of this means to me and my daughter. Not only has Victoria put on an incredible show, but you, my friend, have been nothing short of amazing," Armando said, his voice filled with sincerity. Luis, ever humble, accepted the praise with a modest smile. "I appreciate your kind words, Armando. But it wasn't just me, everyone played a part in this. With a bit of creativity and the incredible support from Victoria, we managed to overcome the challenges. I couldn't have done it without her," he responded, his voice soft but filled with genuine appreciation. Armando smiled, clearly pleased to hear Luis acknowledge Victoria's role in their success. "You're right, Luis. Victoria has been remarkable, but don't sell yourself short. You were a natural tonight, attending to the customers, as if you've been doing it for years, and the food was excellent. The patrons were not just satisfied, they were delighted. You've proven yourself to be an outstanding waiter and cook." Just as Luis was about to respond, Armando's expression shifted abruptly, becoming serious and direct. "But I hope you'll be just as good a son-in-law as you are a worker," Armando said, catching Luis completely off guard. "Or did you think I hadn't noticed the smiles you and Victoria have been exchanging?" The unexpected comment left Luis utterly speechless. The idea that his feelings for Victoria had been so obvious that even Armando noticed them was both thrilling and mortifying. His face flushed a deep shade of red, the color rising rapidly as he fumbled for a response. The realization that Armando had not only seen but apparently approved of his growing affection for Victoria filled Luis with a mixture of happiness and embarrassment. I don't know what to say," Luis stammered, laughing nervously as he tried to process Armando's words. Armando's stern expression softened into a knowing smile. "You don't need to say anything, Luis. Just be good to her. She means the world to me, and I can see that you care for her too. That's all a father can ask for," Armando said, his voice warm with approval. Luis nodded, his heart still racing. "I promise, Armando. I'll do my best. I care about Victoria very much, and I would never do anything to hurt her." Armando clapped Luis on the shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie and trust. "That's all I needed to hear. Now let's get some rest. We've got another busy day ahead of us tomorrow," he said with a grin, leading the way out of the storeroom. As they stepped back into the quiet restaurant, Luis couldn't help but feel a profound sense of contentment. The restaurant was thriving, his bond with Armando had deepened, and, most importantly, his feelings for Victoria were no longer a secret. The future was bright, filled with possibilities that only a few weeks ago seemed out of reach. As they closed up for the night, Luis's heart swelled with the knowledge that he was not just part of a successful business but part of a family. After that life-changing day, the trajectory of everyone's lives took an unexpected and beautiful turn that no one could have fully anticipated. Armando's keen observations about the growing connection between Luis and Victoria, which he had voiced with such clarity, turned out to be more than just idle speculation. They were a true reflection of the deep bond that had formed between them. Not long after Armando's return, Luis, inspired by the blossoming love that had steadily grown between him and Victoria, decided that it was time to take their relationship to the next level. With a heart full of hope and a mind filled with visions of a shared future, Luis gathered his courage and proposed to Victoria. The moment was tender and filled with genuine emotion, a perfect culmination of the journey they had been on together. Victoria's joyful and wholehearted acceptance of his proposal was met with smiles and knowing looks from Sofia and Armando, neither of whom were surprised by the outcome. They had witnessed, day by day, the subtle but unmistakable signs that something special was developing between Luis and Victoria, a love that was destined to flourish. 2 months later, amid an atmosphere of celebration, love, and shared happiness, Luis and Victoria exchanged vows in a wedding that was as heartwarming and intimate as the relationship they had built. The ceremony was a beautiful reflection of their unique journey, a celebration marked by simplicity, the magic of music, and the undeniable joy of two kindred spirits committing their lives to each other. The happiness that enveloped the event was palpable, a clear indication to everyone present that this union was the beginning of a new and exciting chapter in their lives. In the months leading up to the wedding, Luis had seamlessly become an integral part of the restaurant's team, working side by side with Victoria to ensure not only the survival but also the thriving success of the business. Together, they dreamed bigger dreams, their shared vision driving them to achieve more than they had ever thought possible. Their collaboration was rooted in mutual respect, a deep understanding of each other's strengths, and an unspoken commitment to seeing their dreams through to fruition. With tireless dedication and hard work, they were able to save enough to purchase a home, a place where they could plant roots and build their future together. For Sofia, who had become a constant source of joy, laughter, and light in both the restaurant and in Luis and Victoria's lives, the news that she would soon have a new brother was met with indescribable excitement and happiness. The announcement of the new addition to their family brought even more meaning to what was already an incredible story of love, resilience, and unity. It symbolized not just the growth of their family, but also the beginning of a promising lineage filled with affection, support, and shared dreams. As the years passed, what had once been a small, struggling eatery on the brink of closure transformed into something much greater. The restaurant not only became a beloved meeting place for the local community, but also expanded into a thriving franchise with multiple locations across the city. Luis's innovative vision, Armando's tireless dedication, and Victoria's unwavering support and creativity turned the restaurant into a shining example of resilience, creativity, and enduring success. What had started as a modest neighborhood establishment grew into a flourishing enterprise, its success a testament to the power of collaboration, love, and unwavering belief in their shared vision. The stability and prosperity achieved by the family were more than just financial successes. They were reflections of the deep bond that had formed between them, a bond built on love, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to one another. The days of struggle and uncertainty became distant memories, replaced by a future filled with prosperity, joy, and the satisfaction of knowing that they had built something lasting and meaningful together. Every new challenge they faced was met with confidence and a sense of purpose, not as a hurdle to overcome, but as an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and closer as a family. Their legacy, marked by the harmonious blend of music, the unforgettable flavors of their dishes, and the love that bound them together, became an inspiration to everyone who crossed their path. The restaurant was no longer just a place to eat, it was a living reminder that with unity, love, and a shared vision, even the most impossible dreams could be turned into reality. The family's story became a beacon of hope and a source of inspiration, reminding all who encountered them that with determination, creativity, and a supportive network of loved ones, there are no limits to what can be achieved. As this chapter of their lives drew to a close, the family looked forward to the future with excitement and anticipation. The challenges they had faced had only made them stronger, and the successes they had achieved were just the beginning. They knew that together they could accomplish anything. Their story, filled with moments of triumph, joy, and love, would continue to inspire others for years to come. As we reach the end of this incredible story, it's time to reflect on what we've learned. This journey was more than just about saving a restaurant, it was about the power of resilience, the importance of unity, and the unexpected paths that kindness can lead us down. So I ask you, what have you learned from this story? Is there one thing that stands out to you, something that you can take and apply in your own life? Please, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your reflections. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.